So GoldenEye was interesting. Rare was highly successful, and Mr. Yamauchi actually got the license. Bond is very popular in Japan, just like the rest of the world. So he went to Rare and said, hey, you should make use of this IP. And most of the teams were working on big games that they knew were going to be successful. And we don't want to work on that.
GoldenEye was one of the first-person shooters that came out on the Nintendo 64. You got to be James Bond, wander around his universe in the GoldenEye film, and experience what it was like to be in the film. You know, the levels were recreated, the actual missions were recreated, and essentially the whole game is about making you experience what it's like to be James Bond.
I think the only person on the team who had worked on a game before was Martin Hollis, who I think had worked on the Killer Instinct arcade machine. Apart from that, everyone on the team was making their first game.
Well, Martin Hollis actually was hired in the middle of the original Killer Instinct, and he loves James Bond. So Martin Hollis is like, I'll do it.
Originally it was going to be on the SNES as the side-scrolling platform. As soon as Rare got involved with Project Reality, which became the N64, GoldenEye was on the table as a launch title, which it totally wasn't.
It originally started out as it was going to be like a Virtua Cop, Time Crisis style game, so just on rails, and just shooting characters who would pop out.
The showcase feature, the kind of standout cool thing they were trying to do, was location-based damage.
The idea was that wherever you shot them, they would react to it.
So if you shoot somebody in the hand, they drop the gun.
And that's when we got into using the motion capture system, which at the time was the Flock of Birds magnetic system.
GoldenEye in particular never got above 9 people, I think, on the core team. We had to wear many hats. One of the hats I wore was motion capture actor. And that was fun.
I'm sure many of you have probably seen motion capture setups. People in fancy suits with little reflective balls.
And the interesting thing about the Flock of Birds was essentially it was a motion capture system attached to the wall.
In that sweaty little room, when it had already been used to capture all of the moves for Killer Instinct, and most of the moves for Killer Instinct 2 Arcade. Hell, it stank.
It was basically a tethered solution. Every one of these little sensors that was on the body of the motion capture artist had to be connected to a wire that went to a harness.
And you couldn't really do very much in the case of, throwing yourself backwards when you get shot, because you would literally yank the entire system off the wall.
I had to do forward rolls, not knowing if when I came up I'd be strangling myself on the wires because of our setup. I must stress as well that most of our capture was amateur. It's like people that had never done it before, that were just doing what they thought was the right thing in the suit at the time. That probably comes across, but it's from the heart. We loved what we were doing and we had a great time.
I'm going over to Rare a lot, and I start meeting with Martin. He's like, hey, I want to show you what we're working on. First time I saw it, I'm like, this needs to be a first-person shooter. No, we don't have much time. We're going to make this Virtua Cop thing. Here, look at our cool animations. Those animations are great. This should be a first-person shooter.
So when it was first shown in Japan, it wasn't on-rail shooter, but I think it was only shown as a short video clip.
So they make this video of their first prototype, and it gets shown at Shoshinkai, the Japanese Nintendo Space World convention, where they debuted the Nintendo 64 in Japan. And in that, there's a debut video for GoldenEye.
People couldn't actually tell what sort of game it was.
The whole world is like, a first-person shooter, that's incredible!
Even back then, so the aiming, you could aim like all over the screen, as though you had a light gun or something like that.
I get a call right when I get back to America. Martin's like, can you come over and talk about the first-person shooter stuff? Because, yeah, people think it's a first-person shooter, and we've been talking about it. Like, yeah.
I just remember talking about it with Martin one time, and he was saying, should we make it so you can move around freely? Yeah, and it just seemed like a really good idea to do. I mean, we'd obviously been playing loads of Doom.
So they brought me back over and we built this little prototype of what it would be like to actually move your character instead of just aim and shoot. I'd solved strafing, aiming, leaning, all that stuff was in the first prototype. Once they got it working, they decided, okay, we're making a first-person shooter.
To do that with just in a proper 3D environment with 3D polygonal graphics and 3D characters just seemed like a really good thing to do.
During the production, almost one of the first things I did after joining the team, a few months afterwards, was to go down to the set where they were filming GoldenEye.
So we got a set visit and we took, what was this digital camera, which was this massive thing. I mean, it was so heavy. It was one of the very first digital cameras available. And again, I got to use this a lot because I was like the artist.
But when we went down there, it was great. I mean, you get to see how really quite rough the sets are. As you get an appreciation then of what the camera glosses over.
We photographed the hell out of it. We photographed the St. Petersburg set, which was on the main runway. And when you were at one end of the runway, it quite literally looked like you were in St. Petersburg.
And we used the textures there extensively. We're making our own versions, and we had to try and vary them a lot. Our version was very grid-like, very blocky, because it had to be for the limitations of the console, the cartridge.
It was quite fantastic, and it was covered in shells and everything, which some of them may have found their way into my pocket afterwards. And we went to the Seventeenth set after it had been exploded, so that was all looking, full of detritus and smoke and everything.
We also saw authentic Russian vehicles, the ZIL and so on. We had to photograph them and then try and... They had very curvy shapes, very kind of organic shapes, and we had to model them in not very many polygons. That was tough.
We went to the canteen where we had a very nice lunch, I remember, and I got to meet Pierce Brosnan, and that was good. That was good.
I saw the back of Pierce Brosnan's head as it walked away from me. Yes.
Oh, we went to Statue Park, that was it, because Statue Park was one of the levels I created, and I photographed everything in Statue Park, so that was the best reference I could have had, because quite literally you have no idea. After they finish filming it, that's it, it's all destroyed. There's no way you can go back. So we photographed every single damn thing we could find. We went to the costume department and we photographed all the clothes, because Boris's shirt, that was, ghastly beyond belief, and there was no way we were going to find reference for that. So we photographed all of that, and had a great day out at Leeds, a beautiful sunny day, and then came back and spent the next 3 years making the game.
GoldenEye, I worked on sound and music, didn't have any speech in that game.
Graham Norgate was doing GoldenEye and Blast Call, and then it was quite busy, so he said, I'll do Blast Call, you can take over on GoldenEye. I was like, shit, I get to do James Bond, and I love James Bond, like some of my age, of course.
About a year in, Grant Kirkhope joined the music team and helped me with many of the tunes. The guy can write very quickly indeed.
And I try to think of like a billion ways to do the Bond theme. So you kind of think, I'll do a dance version and this metal version and and all that stuff. So that was great fun.
We put him through his paces when he first came to Rare, and he had the lucky task of converting Donkey Kong Country 2 to the Game Boy. He was very pleased to be on a project like GoldenEye.
It was so tight to try and get the music into the tiny space that Mr. Hollis let us have, because he was such a tight git.
Strange to think that a game like that didn't have any speech, but very rightly, Martin Hollis, who was the project leader, decided that we didn't have the memory to have enough to make it believable.
I remember things like we had to loop cymbals, so we couldn't afford to have a cymbal go tsh, have the decay and die, so it was way too big for the memory.
So if we just had a few snippets here and there that would keep getting repeated, you just lose that sort of immersion that you got in the game.
So we had to kind of loop a cymbal, so it had to go and it's completely shit, and we had to go and Graham Norgate was like, well, that's the best we could do. It was like, that's all we could do with it all.
We had a license to use the Bond theme, which was a godsend to us, because it's so many fantastic themes in that tune.
I remember spending tons of time listening to the we had all the Bond recordings, but we had something like all the pop songs from that precede the movie. I remember that, was it the Gloria Gaynor one, License to Kill? Was that the one the License to Kill? And then Holly said to me, License to Kill. You listen to it, in the background it goes, got a license to kill, right, and the backing singers do that. And so it ruined, I loved that fucking song, and it ruined it for me, because I always heard, got a license to kill. I thought, Holly, you shit.
The theme tune gave me so much grief. Firstly, trying to get that 60s orchestral swing into a MIDI file with 12 or so voices. Some of the stabs at the start are pretty out there jazz chords. I remember Robin and me sort of studying it and playing it and trying to get the right notes, and it took forever to get it. Along comes Grant with his guitar, knocks out the tune, that's the one we go for. So it was all for nothing.
I did like one of the, I think it's the one with this battleship, I forgot what they're called. I remember nicking the Faith No More drum beat from We Care a Lot and sticking in the Duran Duran duh, 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 duh. I did it like that, and they said, oh, it's too similar to have to take one of the notes out, and so it's still a bit sick. So just me nicking everything I could from that Bond CD and sticking it in there. So that was I can't think of it, that was top fun to do.
My legacy or crowning achievement, however you'd like to say it, is it's got to be GoldenEye.
In GoldenEye, all the people who worked on it ended up as guards and so forth. You know, all their faces are being used, especially Dr. Doak, because when Dave joined the team, it was like, oh, we've got a doctor.
So Dave would set up a lot of the objectives. He would then create the storyline around those objectives.
And Dave, being a doctor of biochemistry, became Dr. Doak. We were under some pressure not to actually call him Dr. Doak. I think they said we should call him Dr. Dost or something like that. But we stuck to our guns because Dave was an actual doctor.
Suddenly we end up with a character called Dr. Doak with his face, and he's the only one who's got a named character that turns up as Dr. Doak.
We looked around at the studio and it was like, yes, we've got a source here that all we have to do is take photographs of everybody's head.
The rest of us just turn up randomly. There's always 4 heads that turn up. There's everybody on the team, there's Tim and Chris's son are in there, we've got random plumbers, we've got people that were in the technical department.
We tried to use the publicity shots of the actors to generate the face maps for the heads, but we need very specific shots for that to make the job easier. You need a full face shot from the front, very flat on, and then you need a side shot. And then we blend them together into one horrific looking mask.
Mark Edmonds was one of the lead programmers on GoldenEye, and he didn't want to be part of it, which actually, because he had such curly hair, was probably a good thing, because there's no way we could cope with that many pixels. So what I did do was I managed to get a shot of him walking, and if you look on one of the screens in 7i, you will see a guy with a hat on a skateboard, just doing this skateboard motion over and over and over again. And this is Mark Edmonds.
It's tricky. You have to do a lot of rework on that to get something usable out of it, and it doesn't necessarily end up looking like the actor very much, as you may notice. It's easier when you're getting other people's heads in the game, so we got a lot of practice at that and carried that technique through into Perfect Dark.
When we were working on the game, and I think a year into we'd been working on it, they released the film.
We asked when they were given the license, it'd be nice if you at least hit the VHS release, and they were trying, because obviously if they could have launched exactly on top of the VHS for GoldenEye, they would have got some free marketing.
But at no time did I think, they've released the film. Maybe we should have released the game at this point, because it wasn't even anywhere close. I know, we didn't have levels finished.
The design of GoldenEye was not standard practice, because we were doing it for the first time. Take somewhere like the gas plant. We had some information from the set, so we built what we had from the set maps, but they're not going to show everything, and they're going to use that space over and over again and again. So we had to try and make that fit in with the process, the progression of Bond through that scene in the film.
We did some shooting tests of GoldenEye. What we had originally was if you got hit a particular place, this huge spatter of blood would come out the front and out the back, and his whole chest would go poof, and poof, and poof, and all this. And it got to the point, even before Nintendo saw it, that it was like, we can't show this.
Yeah, so one of the things I spent quite a bit of time on was explosions and smoke and particles that would happen when you shoot anything. Having spent quite a bit of time on doing those effects, we used them everywhere. So if you shot a desk, it would explode. If you shot a chair, it would explode. If you shot a computer, it would explode. And actually, it probably would have been more work to make it so that only certain things exploded than everything.
When I was making the dam, the original design had Bond going across the dam on a boat to the back of the lake, where there'll be a little island and a further objective. However, the dam was an absolute nightmare to get to work with the portaling system.
Martin had developed this portal system. It's basically to let the frame rate of the game be as high as possible, so that when you're in one room, it's not drawing the whole level. It's only drawing the room that you're in, and if you're looking through a doorway, then it draws the room through the doorway.
I vividly remember Martin Hollis sitting down for almost a month and hard coding in everything that I'd set up because it just wasn't working. As a result, it was like, you can do this, but we can never go over the lake. So we had an island there and a tower on it, so I just put a gun tower on there to harass you when you were on the piers at the back of the dam, and that's it. Can't go over there. Could have been.
The extra levels in the single-player game of Aztec and the Egyptian Temple, they were put in there so that we could use a bit more of our knowledge for the James Bond universe. We weren't told, no, you can't use it. We weren't told, you do need to use it. But because we'd already used all the corridors and all the backgrounds for GoldenEye, we thought it'd be, fun to make some more homage to the James Bond universe.
Until quite near the end of the game, we had real names of guns, and at some point, I guess the lawyers came and said, you can't do that, you've got to change them all.
With regards to some of the weaponry that we had, again, we had a few in-jokes. The weapon called the Clob was based on Ken Lobb, who was one of the executive directors associated with Rare, so we actually named a gun after him.
I'm thrilled that there's a gun in GoldenEye named after me. It's an honor. It was an honor of a lifetime. Obviously, it's anybody that played GoldenEye has heard of this thing. The number of people that I know that are famous in the industry that, I explained this to them, and they're like, really?
The Walther is an absurdly accurate pistol, and you can basically snipe with it. That's another mistake, rookie error.
18 years later, and I still meet people that, it's like, you're the Clob. Oh. And it's like, yeah, Martin Hollis kind of ran the team. Yeah, but you're the Clob.
So the judo chop came about because we had to model the hand, and this is the hand that's on the gun, because we couldn't do a fist very easily, because then we had to fold the fingers around and so on, but straightening the fingers out, by contrast, was kind of easy. So we've got a judo chop.
The only other thing that was definitely cut is playing through the game with two knives. This all worked perfectly towards the end of the game. We heard that there was an incident in Japan.
We had a worrying fax from Japan that had concerns about murder in the close distance.
The Bond license people came and had a look at the game and decided that the game couldn't be released because James Bond couldn't go around shooting that amount of people.
So there was a suggestion from Nintendo Japan probably that at the end of a GoldenEye level, all the characters would get up. So the dead bodies would get up and shake hands or have a party, just to show that they weren't actually dead.
All the guards that you'd shot would suddenly get up off the floor and they'd have a team photograph to sort of say, hey, it's all right, we're all actors, we're all friends here. Didn't go with that.
For people that pay attention to the industry, in Japan, a lot of people don't play with a group of people in their house. Nintendo wanted 2 controller ports. We wanted 4 controller ports. They kept telling us how much this was going to cost. We kept telling them, yeah, but Mario Kart 4-player would be really awesome.
I think the work on the multiplayer started around about April and May 1997. The game came out in August 1997, so that was really pretty close to the end.
Multiplayer was added really late. People saying that it was 6 weeks before the end. And I can't remember if it was actually that close to the end, but it was definitely added on really, really late.
I continue to kind of push and push, explain to them about the 4 controller ports, how it should be a 4-player, first-person shooter. Again, they were just busy.
Single-player work was done by that time, and it was just in testing and tweaking and balancing of the levels. And alongside that, it seemed like there was an opportunity to try and find out whether we could get multiplayer to work at all. So I secretly got on with working on that without the management of Rare knowing about it.
It's like, it's one of those moments in time, it's literally photographic, burned into my memory. I can still just, he drags me into the room, I'm following Martin, sitting on the conference table is an N64 with a prototype cartridge and 4 controllers.
We got to a stage where it was clearly fun. It was clearly going to be an interesting thing to pursue. So what we did is that every night the whole team would have a session where we played together for a couple of hours and just made notes on what was good, what was bad.
So we sit down, we play like 15 minutes of first-person shooter, 4-player split-screen GoldenEye, and I'm like, this is incredible, it's awesome! And they're like, we want to delay the game 6 months.
There was never really any plan, any even short-term plan of we're going to do this, then this, then this. It was purely reactive to our play sessions and doing whatever seemed like it was going to work best to make a fun experience.
You want to what? We're already 8 months late. But I'm like, this is too fun. Let me add it.
Anyway, he said, "You're not doing multiplayer mode, are you?" He said, "Of course we're not doing a multiplayer mode." So we did a multiplayer mode.
Because it was being added at such a late stage, all of the motion capture for the game had already been done. One thing that we didn't have was a load of animations for the player, which you would not normally see when you were playing the game from a first-person point of view.
I became the person that made all the characters, did all the rigging for the characters, and eventually did all the animation for the characters as well.
But now you were able to see the other players running around, and they could do all of the things that you could do in a first-person point of view. So, for example, they could run around crouched. So we didn't have an animation for that. All we had was a static crouching animation. When you run around crouched in multiplayer, or when other players run around crouched, you will just see them sliding around on their knees.
We got to pick 4 more villains. And I say we, I randomly decided to pick 4 villains that I really liked. So that's where you got Mayday, Baron Samedi, Jaws and Oddjob. I picked Mayday because she was about the only really cool female character in the James Bond universe at that point. So I picked her and 3 other ones that were really fun to make. And of course, Oddjob is now famous for being the smallest character in video games, and you get sort of like told off if you play as Oddjob because you can't see him half the time. But he was built because he was cool. Just
the way that you played that was made it very, very different than Doom or Quake. The fact that you had weapons beyond just guns. So my personal favorite loadout is Remote Mine, and if we play in the complex, I win. A lot.
Our testers loved it. That's a good sign. NOA testers loved it. Better sign.
There's quite a different experience with playing in the same room and being able to elbow the person next to you as they've shot you in the face.
It wouldn't have sold anywhere near as much without the multiplayer.
I also did something that was a little controversial inside of Nintendo of America. I told them, I want people to rent this game. Why don't we take 20 copies of GoldenEye and give them to every Blockbuster? If you don't like this after 60 days, send them back. Nobody sent them back.
Thinking about movie games, or games made based on movies, there weren't that many good ones before GoldenEye.
We became the #1 rented game at Blockbuster for like 3 years.
The thing that I remember back in the UK is that all over that Christmas period in 1997, the game was out of stock everywhere, which was really frustrating for the team because we were saying, well, no, it's not going to succeed if people can't buy it.
In Christmas 98, we sold more than in Christmas 97. And it gets more crazy because in Christmas 99, we sold more than 98 and 97 combined.
After we finished doing the game, we got invited to E3 at Atlanta, and one evening we were told to go to a presentation at the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences. This is like the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which essentially do the Oscars. So we all went to this evening event and basically won 7 Oscars that night.
If you were looking at it in context with a load of other games for the time, I would hope that you would see that it was ahead of its time in a lot of ways.
Especially the way it related to being stealthy, that I also don't think have been matched in any game since. I hate stealth gameplay. I love GoldenEye. What's the difference? You don't have to be stealthy. It's stealth by choice.
If any one of that team had not been there, it would have been a lesser game for it.
It's been 17 years and at least 3 times a week people still ask me about it, or will write to me and say, oh, I love that game, that's my childhood. That's the reason I flunked uni, because I was playing that game with my friends.
I also saw there was a Q&A with Sean Bean, and he said that he had played it and thought it was wonderful. That warmed my heart. That's lovely to hear.
I believe, honestly, GoldenEye, one of the best games ever made. Worldwide sales on the N64, just by a fraction. #1 game, Mario Kart. #2, GoldenEye. Outsold Mario 64. Outsold everything else. Again, super proud and respectful for the people that 14 hours a day for 2 years to build GoldenEye. That was an amazing team. They did great work.